Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to Business Point on Global Television. I'm Queen Agaba. And of course, on Business Point, we x-ray Nigeria's economy. We talk about tech, innovation, as well as government policies. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll dive deep into our topic for discussion today. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, in addressing the topic of navigating the digital frontier in Nigeria's tech industry, it is crucial for us to consider the unique landscape where vast opportunities, driven by a young and techie-savvy population and increasing internet penetration, meets tangible challenges here in Nigeria. These challenges include infrastructural inadequacies and regulatory uncertainties. This context sets the stage for our discussion on how the industry can capitalize on its potential while effectively managing the hurdles it faces. My guest on the program is David Bembe, who is the Director of Primus Tech Solutions. He'll be helping us better make sense of this topic and emerging challenges in the world of tech. Many thanks for joining me, Mr. David. Can you hear me? Good morning, Mr. David. Can you hear me? Okay, let's look at what Kike Lomo-Okere has put together for us on Business Report right after this break. Thank you for staying with us. Now, if you've just joined us, this is Business Point on Global Television, where we talk about tech innovation, government policies, and Nigeria's economy. In addressing the topic, which is navigating the digital frontier in Nigeria's tech industry, like I said, it is crucial to consider the unique landscape, our unique landscape, where vast opportunities driven by a young and techie-savvy population and increasing internet penetration meet tangible challenges. Now, these challenges include infrastructural inadequacies and regulatory uncertainties. This sets the stage for our discussion on how the industry can capitalize on its potential while effectively managing the hurdles it faces. My guest on the program, David Bembe, is here. David Bembe, I beg your pardon, is here. He's the Director of Primus Tech Solution. Good morning, David.
Yeah, good morning.
Glad to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So before we, dive into discussing these factors, the factors driving the growth of the Nigeria tech industry, I want us to set the stage. It's important to note that Nigeria has large population, with youthful population particularly. We have widespread mobile adoption and significant entrepreneurial spirit. You would agree with me. And then our landscape is unique for technological innovation and digital entrepreneurship. Let us, this better makes us understand the dynamics and opportunities within Nigeria's, evolving tech sectors. But I want you to help me make sense of the key factors that are driving the growth of the tech industry in Nigeria.
Okay, so first of all, we have to understand some of the trends in the industry before we can look at the key factors driving the tech ecosystem in Nigeria. And you need to understand that Nigeria, of course, like you mentioned, is a very diverse community with different interests, different sort of people. And then even with the integration of tech in different sectors, people still have different needs. And you take a look at the transformation currently in the Nigerian tech space or in the Nigerian landscape, and you discover that some of the trends in Nigeria specifically, it's fintech, right? So financial technology has actually taken over, though other people have actually, or other sectors have actually come in, but at the top of the chain, you still have fintech over there. And even foreign investors are more interested. Uh, Record will show that most of the investments have been in the areas of financial technology. Although there are other sectors that have also gained popularity, are finally gaining attention in the landscape as well, like e-commerce, mobility, and so on, to go on. Now, some of the things that are driving, some of the factors that are driving these trends is demand, right? So there's need for adaptation of these technologies. Though Nigeria is way back in terms of implementation, we are more on the consumption side than the development side, yet there's need because we have, the world now, due to technology, is a global village. It's a global village that we connect globally. Just with your mobile device, you connect globally. And people are starting to realize the implementation of these technologies in other areas that make life easy for people in terms of transportation, in terms of financial transaction, in terms of security, and all of these things. And then people are demanding for it in the Nigerian landscape. And you take a look at the younger generation that is so much interested in tech and not as seen before. We have more and more people trooping in into the tech space in the Nigerian ecosystem, and it's as a result of them to trying to be a part of something new, something to be part of the innovation, basically. And demand actually has been, I would say, the number one factor of driving this technological advancement.
The man rightly said, please, we'll take a quick break, a very quick break. When we return, I want us to look at how Nigerian startups, upcoming upcoming infrastructural challenges they face, and all of that just after this break. Please stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. If you've just joined us, it's Business Point on Global Television, and I've been speaking with David Vembe. Mr. David, now I want us to look at the challenges that a lot of up and coming tech industry faces. When I mean challenges, I'm talking about power supply, erratic power supply, limited broadband access. Take for instance, Paystack and Flutterwave. They provide innovative financial services They have been able to do this despite, the many infrastructural challenges and hurdles that we know of. Now, how is this possible? Can we look at how it's possible and how a lot of startups can, go about these challenges?
Okay, so if you look at the Nigerian system, for example, one of the main challenges, like you mentioned, is infrastructure, basically. For the new people coming into the scene, for the newbies coming into the scene, is actually challenging. But on top of that chain is infrastructure challenges, electricity, uh, broadband, like you mentioned. Now, if anyone tries to find an alternative to this, is actually cost more. For companies like established startups like Paystack, Flutterwave, to mention a few, they've actually, they were early on in the scene and they could secure the funding at very early stage. And with that, it enabled them to outsource power and all of that, they have that covered. However, for the newbies just coming into the scene, it poses as a challenge because for them to outsource alternative ways of powering their infrastructure or whatever they're building, you have different ones as well. You have them securing funds as well. The ecosystem is already saturated. And the fact that we had people that came into the scene at a very early stage, they've already saturated the scene. And now for people coming in, it's sort of like they are coming into or coming under the ones that are already established. So that also poses as a challenge. And as I mentioned earlier, the focus of the Nigerian tech scene, for example, is more to the financial technologies. Mobility, we have companies like Move coming into the scene and other ones. And then in terms of other services as well, we have them coming to the scene, but the attention is given more to financial technologies. And if you look at it properly, those financial technologies are already saturated with companies like Paystack, Flutterwave, I think Razor, and you name them. So them already secure their funds, and it's easier for them, not so easy, but it's possible for them, not easy, to actually source out or outsource alternative power supply. In terms of broadband, recently Starlink was introduced in Nigeria, and it was quite at a pricey tag. Now, to look at someone that's just coming into the scene, accessing such an expensive service that will be reliable is also pricey. And that also poses as a challenge to individuals that are just coming into the scene. Another factor we need to look at is policies, right? So I think was it in 2022 or 2023, Nigeria introduced a startup policy, right? National Startup Act, right? Which is meant to allow people start up and scale. That is them accessing funding and all of these things. But, there is one thing to have policies in place, it's another to actually implement those policies effectively and efficiently. And many will say that these policies are as effective as a toothless bulldog, right? They are there, but they're not so much effective. So for a startup or someone that's just coming into the scene, bureaucratic policies, and Nigeria as a country has a way of doing its things for you to go from one office to another. For example, they have a startup website, I believe, or a portal that startup companies are supposed to fill the form with requirements and all of that. But again, if you fill that form, how long will it take for you to actually get what you're requesting for? How long will it take for you to get approval? How long will it? So you see all these bureaucratic processes and all these hurdles sometimes poses as a challenge to individuals that are just coming up, right? So sometimes you need to know somebody for you to get something done. And that is also posed as a challenge. And in terms of people that would want to come in, they are not really seeing the potential. Yes, we have a pool of individuals that are so talented, they have so much innovative ideas and all of that. But then access to some of these things is very limited, right? Infrastructure challenge is there, access to funding. Despite the fact that we have our government so many times announced that they have policies in place that would support fundings and incentives. But the question is, how many startups are out there because of or as a result of governmental policies or some of their funding schemes? How many startups have come out of these funding schemes? Not many, because the funds you access as a a regular individual, is not much. What they give you will barely cover for your development services, not to talk of administrative charges and all those services. So it's actually expensive. The expenses also count. And the fact that Nigeria itself doesn't really have its infrastructure, like I said, it's more of a consumer market than a development market. So if you're developing an infrastructure, for example, let's say you venture into the area of artificial intelligence and you want to build a platform. Of course, the data is out there. There's a very large pool of data that needs to be cleaned and extrapolated for different decision, informed decision, and machine learning algorithms, right? However, the infrastructure that this will be built on is not ours, right? So by the time you have to go to another country, for example, to outsource the infrastructure you're making use of, for example, that poses as an additional cost. Not to look at the instability of our own currency, because obviously you're purchasing these services in their own currency or foreign currency, dollar being the popular one. And of course, in the Nigerian market, the currency and the instability, that also poses as a challenge, because if you even secure some sort of funding, and then at the time of your own execution, the dollar is way above the roof, obviously you are short of funds already, and that also poses as a challenge. Another factor we need to look at critically is the fact that the tech talents in Nigeria also are limited to mentorship, right? So they have limited access to mentorship. The tech scene sometimes says you can start up and scale, or you can start up with the available resources on the internet and scale immediately. However, you definitely need the mentorship of people that have already existed in the system, what they've implemented, how to go about things, and what to do exactly at a given time. So the limitation to, or the limited access to mentorship also is a very much big challenge to newbies that are just coming into the tech scene.
Rightly said, and you've clearly articulated some of the challenges that, you know, is prevalent in the tech industry. But I want us to look at opportunities in the tech industry as well. We'll come back to a bit of, what can be done and some of the challenges as well. But let's look at how, the tech sector has, the effect the tech sector has had on employment in Nigeria, the impact. I think that's a better way to put it. Let's look at, in terms of job creation, potential for job creation in the tech industry. Let me give you an instance. We have the rise of a lot of freelance platforms like Jobberman and the rest, which we know connects a lot of skilled Nigerians to global work opportunities. That is an opportunity, and that's a plus for us. What other opportunities do we have in the tech industry?
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier on, Nigeria is more of a consumer market than a development market. Even most of the tech infrastructure, the technologies we are making use of, we are just adopting them. They are not ours. We are not developing them here. So, rightly said, the tech sector actually has provided job opportunities, remote jobs, and all of that. It has also given room to research, right? Like I've always said, individuals have more access to resources now to be informed about tech trends and global trends, what they can do, and so on and so forth. Now, apart from that, we have more individuals now that have on-demand skills, right? We know that though UI UX, for example, is not so much on demand now. Product design, for example, is not so much on demand now in Nigeria, in the Nigerian ecosystem, tech ecosystem. However, individuals are also skilled in that area can also be outsourced or can outsource employment in other regions at the comfort of their homes. Though is a bit challenging, and there are also areas also to look at. E-commerce, for example, has also given room for individuals to explore, right? So you don't really have to get things done or get into the market space with manual processes anymore, because e-commerce is there, and individuals that have actually developed themselves in that area are outsourced frequently for development and maintenance of different systems. So the tech sector itself, or the tech ecosystem, has given room for, without class, you don't necessarily need to be a big name to have an opportunity. What is actually demanded of you is a skill set, right? People are no longer asked, where are you from? What did you do prior to this? Not necessarily, but the sort of what can you do? And if you prove beyond reasonable doubt that you are capable of what is asked of you, then it's an opportunity for you. So job opportunities, employment. We have research. Of course, there's no development yet. I would have said R&D, but there's no development yet. So it's more of research than development. But yes, we have individuals that are coming up with innovative ideas. As ourselves, we have innovative ideas that we come up with every now and then. And yes, the system itself is growing, but not at the rapid pace compared to, I would say, other African countries. But again, it has provided opportunities for individuals to explore. We'll talk about areas of digital marketing. Of course, before now, we've eradicated the manual way of marketing. That individual right now, a single individual right now has the resources available to engage in effective marketing. That was with the use of different tools, SEOs, and different measuring tools, analytical tools, web design, content management systems, and so on and so forth. So it has also given room for people to explore in terms of digital marketing, search engine optimization, which is also part of digital marketing and all of that. So yes, there are great opportunities that it has also bridged the gap between, I would say, illiteracy and literacy. Of course, when even if you don't want to see certain things on your timeline, they tend to appear. And if you're a curious person, if you pique your curiosity, you go through it. So apart from providing opportunities for individuals who are interested in the tech scene, it also enlightens people more on what's going on, connect people easily and so on.
Mm. You know, let's talk about risk now, because risk that most existing tech companies face here in Nigeria. Talk about insecurity and all of that, and even regulatory risk. Let's take, for instance, there was a sudden ban of motorbikes, taxis in Lagos, particularly in Lagos. Taxis and, those ride-hailing startups. Yes, I remember, like GoCarda and Max NG. And that obviously affected their businesses. These are regulatory risks. What becomes of these startups here in Nigeria? Because we know that we get to see a lot of regulatory uncertainties, cybersecurity threats, competition from foreign companies and all that. What becomes of them, and what happens, as regards these risks, some of their risks and challenges?
Okay, so the first thing is we need to look at who is actually implementing these policies, who is coming up with these policies. And that has to do with the government. I know in the past year, we saw a lot of startups closing down. There's an individual that raised over $100 million, but he was greatly affected by these same policies, and he had no choice than to close down. And we had few individuals that left. And then there's a very large pool of tech talents in Nigeria. And you will discover that, like you mentioned earlier, first of all, let's look at the existing startups, the established startups, how some of these policies affect them, or how outsourcing affects them. Now, some have actually, like I said, the emphasis is always towards the financial sector. That's the financial technologies, fintech. That's where the emphasis is always. I don't know. I can't say for certain. I can't tell you the one I don't know, which has to do with governmental policies, governmental agenda, and all of that. But I'll tell you the one I know, which has to do with how technologies or tech startups can quickly adapt to changes like this. Now, for the ones that are greatly affected to closure, like you mentioned before, the ban of bikes in Lagos and all of that, how they can actually evolve is them looking at the market, right? It has to do with research. and also following up with trends. So, for example, the mobility startups, you look at where you are established, where your market is based, and then you look at what are the government policies around this, around your business, right? Of course, we'll still come back to how these policies affect companies directly, but let's first of all talk about how companies can evolve through some of these policies. So, if example is banned, maybe tricycle is allowed. If tricycle is banned, probably mobile cabs are allowed. So there's always a room for a company to evolve from one challenge to another. And if there's no room at all for them to evolve, then they are left with no choice than to close down. And that's also pose a risk to people or individuals that tend to come in and invest in the Nigerian ecosystem. Now, if I'm to dish out a bit of advice, I would say that some of the governmental policies need to be a little bit flexible to encourage investment, to encourage development, R&D, research and development. They need to look at, apart from the environmental challenges, that's in terms of mobility, that having those companies might impact that particular area. We also have to look at the developmental side of things, right? These companies, these startups are also providing employment for uh, a country like Nigeria. It depends on where they are located. If it's say Lagos, for example, they are providing, the ones that are established in Lagos are providing employment opportunities for people in Lagos, for example. And the World Economic Forum, is it World Bank actually rated Nigeria, I think, the first poorest country, one of the poorest countries in the world, due to the lowest rates of employment and the high unemployment in the country. So some of these startups are actually providing job opportunities. And what I would dish out as a recommendation is for the government to look at the policies. So these policies, how would they impact the economic situation? One of the communities developed in Nigeria, I think National Information Technology is a forum or so. If you see their mission is to develop a strategy, is to develop a framework that will actually boost the Nigerian socioeconomic situation. And if they turn around to introduce counter policies that would actually contradict what they've actually said in their mission, then obviously, like I said before, it's like a toothless bulldog, having those policies in place but not being so effective, right? So greatly, some of these things affect startups. And for people coming into the scene, it's not just, that's why I said mentorship earlier on. I stated mentorship. People coming into the scene, it's very important to research, right? You don't just start up because you have to start up or there is a trend. You have to first of all look at what are the policies around what you want to start up in the country you want to start up, in the states that you want to start up. You have to research what your target market is, how receptive your target market will be to your solution, and how quickly will you scale? Would you scale if it is implemented, looking at some of the policies already in place?
Rightly said. You would agree with me that there are a lot of partnership globally, especially in the tech space. Take for instance Zipline, and how they partnered to deliver medical supplies via drone. How can Nigerians now? Let's look at how is this possible for us to be able to have partnership in the global tech space. How can we source relevance? How can we showcase our innovation? How basically Nigerian tech solutions, how are we going to be able to be scalable globally in terms of partnership? How do we contribute?
Okay, so in the past few years, Nigeria have actually gained global presence because we have tech talents that have actually been outsourced in other countries as well. So global relevance, we have it, but it's on individual level. It's not on, I would say, on a state level. It's on individual level. So where are you from? You're so talented. You're so skilled. Where are you from? I'm from Nigeria. So that's our relevance in the global market. That's how we gain relevance. But in terms of partnership, I would say that it has to do greatly with the internal problems and policies. An individual that intends to come in or if you reach out, I'll give you an instance. A few months ago, an Indian company reached out to us and they needed to partner with us to sell the solution. And then when we introduced the Nigerian market to them, the quick fear was how will Nigerians actually accept their solution? Was quite pricey and it's in dollars, instability of the currency, and all of that. So there are certain policies, there are certain strategies that there are certain things that Nigeria needs to move from, right? We also need to look at what are the benefits of international global partnerships, right? And if you look at it greatly, apart from increasing relevance, uh, but again, we don't have to partner in terms of we consuming, right? That's where we also poses as a risk. Because if you are all consuming, we are not developing, we are not partnering in terms of exchanging resources, which we don't have in terms of we have the tech talent, but we don't have the tech infrastructure. So most times it's sort of like we are giving out, we are not taking in, right? Sorry, we are taking in, we are not giving out. So it's something that we need to also develop internally. We have to come up with ideas. Of course, there are forums that actually encourage tech talent. There are forums that are actually engineered towards developing or building tech talent and then showcasing startups. I know I've attended a few in Lagos. But again, on a very general note, we are sort of in a very competitive market, and it's sort of like if I give room for partnership, it's sort of this person will take the market from me, right? And that is also affecting the growth of most of the companies, right? And if you look at it properly, if we partner globally, it will actually do away or help us eradicate some of these policies that we face from now, every now and then. Because again, if it depends on how our infrastructure is built, where our technologies are being developed, the kind of research we engage in, and all of these things. But greatly, partnership will help build the tech ecosystem in Nigeria. But like I said before, we don't have to partner in terms of consumption. So we are not partnering to consume, we are also partnering to give out, right? To showcase the tech talent in Nigeria, to showcase the tech infrastructure in Nigeria. If you look at the areas of AI, for example, we are consuming, right? We have so much data. Nigerians are so quickly to interact with introduced technologies. I remember when OpenAI introduced Dell 2 or Dell 3, they were quickly generating images with it and other areas. And these are the data. This is the data that you give out that help build this infrastructure. However, we ourselves are not leveraging on so much of data that is available to develop and scale, right? We are more of consuming. So we have other people taking this data, cleaning it, and we are taking from them and consuming it. Though the data is coming from us, right? So we have to look at, we ourselves need to introduce an infrastructure. We need to build, right, first, and then partner in terms of exchanging, not just consuming. Because if we continue like that, our relevance will not be much because they're not seeing so much of the talent, or they're not seeing so much of our own R&D. They are seeing much of consumption. So we need to partner in terms of also giving out, not just consuming.
Thank you so much, Mr. David, for how far you better make sense of the tech industry in Nigeria. We'll have to take a quick break. When we return, the conversation continues. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, if you've just joined us, this is Global Television where, and Business Points, where we discuss government policies, Nigeria's economy, tech, as well as innovation. And before the break, we have been speaking with David Vemba, who is the director of Primus Tech Solution. Mr. David, I believe you're here with us now.
Yes, I'm here.
We're very sorry for that very long break. We had a bit of a situation. Because of our time, there are a lot of other issues I would have loved us to, look at. But because of our time, let's just discuss the future technologies, yes, that would have the most significant impact on Nigeria's tech sector. I'm talking of emerging technologies. Now let's take, for instance, AI, blockchain, IoT, and other potential transformative effects on industries, particularly agriculture and the likes. Let's look at that. Healthcare, finance, and all that.
Okay, so thank you for having me back. So the possibilities with tech are endless, right? Are limitless. Tech itself provides limitless possibilities. In fact, like I said earlier on, it has made the whole world a global village now. And then if you look at some of the innovations, some of the innovative technologies that are coming up, it actually has so much potential. Now, looking at the Nigerian landscape to talk about, it's something that we ourselves, like I said, like I mentioned earlier on, we need to move from a consumer market to more of R&D, research and development. So, and I mentioned earlier on that, thank you for adding agri-tech to it. I mentioned earlier on that we are more focused on financial technologies, and it would appear that investors are more interested in investing in financial technologies, in fintech solutions. And that will prove to you that last year, 2023, out of all the fundraising that was done, most of it went to fintech, and less of it went to agri-tech, health-tech, ed-tech, and the rest of it. Now, it's something that we need to diversify our concentration. We need to diversify our interests, right? Because tech itself holds a very promising future. Now, if you look at the innovative technology, like you mentioned, artificial intelligence, we are not more of a development market. We are more of a consumer market. So we're only making use of pre-developed solutions. We're only incorporating them into our solutions. We are not developing, we are consuming. So it's something that the potential of it is great in terms of, let's talk about education, for example. Let's go back to the building blocks. All right, education, I'm not just talking about schooling, but education is actually the building block of any infrastructure, right? Being informed, staying informed, updating yourself, updating your software as well. That's your brain, of course, not software literally. So if we really want to be part of the global trend, if we really want to be part of the global move, then we have to revisit our building blocks. Of course, there's an attempt of changing curriculum in schools, for example, but the effectiveness of it is not so much. I know schools have introduced AI, Python, developing with Python, and different courses. We have even Montessori academies in schools, in Nigerian schools now, that are introducing coding for kids and all of that. But again, the question is, how well is the implementation of this? Is this just for the knowledge purpose, or is for the actual implementation? That's them using it, all right? And if you look at the development sector, for example, or the development side of things, for example, how are they learning it, right? AI has given room to other countries now in the educational sector. AI has given room to platforms like recommender system, feedback system, where other countries are also working on a specialized curriculum for each individual student. So it's no longer one fits all model. They are working with, because there's so much data available now. So I'm working with models now with the availability of AI, of course. So they are working with different models that are developing algorithms that actually target individual needs. So what are the student interests? What would they like to do with their life? What do they excel in more? And recommender systems are there to provide solutions to student needs, right? And is actually transforming the infra. If you look at China, for example, this is the kind of system they're using. It's no longer everything. So if you really want to be part of the global trend and global development, we have to shift our mindset from that static curriculum, for example, that we have, to something more dynamic that will take everybody along. And that has to do with educating people about tech, essentially uh, creating platforms that will actually enable people, creating enabling environment, enabling infrastructure for the development of all of this. In terms of the health sector, yes, AI is greatly. It's in fact, if you look at the global trend example, for example, in the health sector, you realize that nothing is done manually anymore, right? In time, you even have virtual physicians, you have virtual doctors, you have assistants, AI-based healthcare systems, all right, that take care of your needs, that recommend, that bring recommendations to you. In terms of agri-tech, we've also moved, globally, we've moved from, uh, monitoring everything manually to something more automated and something more intelligently done. Now, if you look at quickly, if you look at the IoT market, for example, Internet of Things, in the Nigerian market, for example, is we are not developing, like I said, we are consuming. Yes, we are implementing. If you look at the high consumption, you discover that is the high-end people that are making use of this product is not available to everyone, right? And we are looking, we are only consuming.
Thank you so much, Mr. David. I wish we could go on and on about this conversation, but we would definitely like to have you again grace this platform to talk about, tech in Nigeria and globally. I hope you do grace our platform again.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Please have a beautiful day ahead.
Thank you.
Sadly, that's where we draw the curtain on Business Points today. From all of us from Global Television, do have a beautiful day ahead. And do not forget to follow us on all social media platforms using at Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. I'm Queen Agaba. Thank you and see you again.